Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 point either 1 or 2. Um, I'm recording these videos back to back, so I'm not sure what I've decided to name this yet. But in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at images, transitions, and transform. And to get started, we're going to need some images. I'm going to go ahead and open GIMP. And if you don't have GIMP or you don't know what that is, go ahead and write GIMP. And it's a program kind of like Photoshop. If you have Photoshop, you can use that. Or maybe you prefer something like Krita or something else. Uh, Not these kind of GIMPs. If you really don't want to install anything, use Paint. So I'm going to go ahead and use GIMP because it's free. I'm going to open a new file and I'm going to make my screen 1280 by 720. And the reason I picked this is because of my screen size. If you don't remember yours, go and open your launcher and click GUI.rpy. And there it is, 1280 by 720. If you are an artist or you are commissioning an artist or something, ask them to use a multiple of your screen size. Okay, so 1280, because a lot of artists, what they do is they'll draw in a bigger canvas so that they can zoom in and draw finer details if they need to. So for example, 1280, maybe my artist can use 3840 by, that was times 3, so 720 times 3 by 2160, right? Just remember to downscale it afterwards so that it fits your game screen. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go 1280 by 720. By default, GIMP should give you a background. You're going to go ahead and delete that because the background does not support transparency. If you make a new layer, make sure you fill with transparency. Okay. You should see that if you take a closer look, I'm not sure if you will see, you can see that the background over here is bolded compared to layer, which is not bolded. So make sure you have a transparent layer. It will be non-bolded. I'm going to export as, and I'm going to export to my desktop, and it's exporting as a PNG. I'm going to go ahead and export as, I want to export as a JPG, okay? Because it's a background and I don't need to care for transparency. JPGs do not support transparency. I'm going to go ahead and close that out, and I'm just going to drag this image. I'm going to title it BG Beach. I'm just going to drag it in. Okay. And there are two ways to show a background. There is one way you should use and another way that some people mess up and use. There's you can show BG space my or beach, right? BG space beach. If you put an image in images, Ren'Py will automatically find your image and then strip the dot whatever extension you have so that you may write show the image name. In Ren'Py, there are two ways for your images to be recognized. First way is by manually defining your image. So we are going to go image, my image name, name equals, we're going to quote, and again, whenever you're finding an image path, open game and then search from it from there. So I know it's in images, so I'm going to write images slash and then my image name. And don't forget the extension. There we go. bgbeach.jpg. And then now instead of show bgbeach, I can show my image name. And there we go. Otherwise, we'll show bgbeach or whatever your file name is without the extension. We're just going to go ahead and show that. This works the same. It's still being shown. So that's the first way to define your image. The second way is automatic. Simply put your image in images folder and Ren'Py will automatically search for it. And yes, they can be as many folders as you want. This will still work. Whoops. So this will still work. Okay. It only failed because I moved it mid-game. So I'll bring that back and delete that folder because I don't want that. Now, again, I said there were two ways to show backgrounds, and there's a wrong way and a right way. This is the wrong way. You want to use scene for showing backgrounds, okay? Although you can't see any differences, scene allows us to clear our scene extremely quickly. I'm going to go ahead and open GIMP again. And we're going to export as. This time, make sure you select PNG because we want the transparency. Oh, if you want to name your file, you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to write mine as Bob. And then export to desktop. That's Bob. Now I'm going to Control Z to go back. And then I'm going to make him smile. Then export as Bob. And from here, I'm going to space happy or smile, whatever name I want to use. Okay? And then sad. And from here, we're going to drag over our images and just plop it in. We're plopping it into images so that we don't have to define it because we are lazy. Okay? So we're going to show Bob. From here, we can do show Bob, and it will work just fine. There is Bob. The reason he's so big is because we were drawing on a 1280 by 720 screen, the exact same size our game is. So this is actually a bad way to do this because a lot of people will tell you, me included, will tell you to draw your images so that instead of getting all these areas, you only get enough space so that it looks something more like this. And to do this in GIMP, we're going to go ahead and freehand. We're going to freehand this. So I'm just going to do something like this. So, whoops. Oh, I'm going to want to... Well, I ran into a bit of a predicament because I should have done the layers in, or the faces in separate layers. Let me do this real quick then. Let me do this instead then. I'm going to merge the eyes with this layer. Whoops, I moved it down. I meant to do that. And draw the mouth. And then I'm just going to do freehand again. This entire body. I'm going to cut, and I'm going to paste. And now you'll see that GIMP has, if you look here, the yellow corners here, that's the layer's bounding boxes. And for this layer, however, it's just the size of Bob, right? So we're going to go ahead and delete the bottom one, and then right click, and then image, and fit canvas to layers. Now our canvas is much smaller. We're going to go ahead and export to Bob Angry again. Neutral. Export as. And we don't write Bob neutral, by the way. We just write Bob. Or whatever the default face you want to choose. If you want your character to be defaulted as always smiling, then you're going to go ahead and write whatever the character's name is, no space, as the default. Rather than writing character name underscore default, right? So I'm going to go ahead and redo or repaste in all of these. Replace. Oh, I forgot about Bob's sad, didn't I? Okay, well we have angry, happy, and neutral. That's good enough. I'm going to go ahead and delete the sad because of its No, I'll leave it in for now to show you guys what it looks like. Um, Now from here, we can do something like show Bob at right. You'll see that Bob, it's very hard to see because of how big my image is. Pause, and then show Bob at left. So I paused, and then I'm going to click. You see how Bob moves, and this is called a transform. So anytime you see at, that's a transform. Right here. So at, and whatever the transform name is. By default, Ren'Py has given us some of them. So I'm going to go ahead and transform. And it is called transforms. These are the default transforms that Ren'Py is supplied with. We can write center or default or not write anything. We have right, top, top left, and all these other ones. Okay, that moves us into anchors. There's a problem here, and that is because of the way Ren'Py is defining our images. Remember when I said there were two ways to define images? Either automatically by putting them in images or manually. And the way automatic image works is it takes your image and makes the top left its anchor. So now if I were to move, give me a bigger screen. I'm going to do 5,000 by 5,000. Okay, maybe I'm going to do 3,000 by 3,000. Okay, now I'm just going to drop Bob in. Now pretend this is your game screen. And currently, if you look at the bottom left, you'll see my mouse position. Up here is 0, 0, somewhere around here. If I can zoom in. So 0, 0, right? This is your game screen. The white is your game screen. If I say move my image to 800, it will take the top left over here and moves that to 800, wherever that may be. So around here. That is where my image will show up. Sorry, I should have specified. That is called X position. So this way is X position. Let me move. Whoops. Let me move Bob down. But he would be here somewhere. X position. And this way is, let me make it a different color, is Y position. Okay? Y position. And let's say I want Bob to move to 800 by 800. We would be right here. 800 by 800, give or take. So around there somewhere. And that is called an anchor. And the anchor is by default 0, 0 over here. And let's say I want his anchor to be exactly in the middle. You can either do that, define Bob, and we're going to do colon. So after colon, 1, 2, 3, 4, X anchor 0.5. You don't need to do equal sign here. So X anchor is 0.5, and then just save that. And now, if I were to say show Bob at right, he's disappeared off the grid. Why? Oh, sorry. It's because I said at right as well. So we're just going to show Bob. Okay. Oh, whoops. I forgot one more thing. I forgot to specify Bob's image. So we're going to go to image, so we're going to write images / bob.png. When you define images, you're going to want to write their names or their path and whatever else transform properties you want to apply to them. X anchor 0 or 0.5. I'm also going to want to specify its There's two ways I can specify locations. I can do transform, transform, and give a transformation name like my left, and then write x position 0.0, for example. So I can show Bob at my left, okay? At my left. I'm going to go ahead and run that. Oops. So there is Bob at my left. When I said show Bob at left instead of at my left, you'll see that it stays here, and I think that's because of the way the default transform. We don't get to see this, but it is in Ren'Py's source code, xpos 0.0. It also resets things like x anger and whatnot, so that it stays defaulted at 0.0. Again, this is the default. So we want to force our image to be something more like that. So it depends on what you want your image to, where you want your image to be, and it's pretty intuitive. These are just the default ones that we can put, or we can go to scroll to the very bottom and just click here, and list of transform properties. So here we have position, x position, y position. If you remember, x position moves your screen left and right, y position moves your screen top and bottom. Okay? Or we can write POS, both at once. So I want to say POS 0.5, 0.5, for example. So there is Bob. Because we set his x anchor to 0.5, we are going to be moving his image from here. Or maybe around here. Because, what is this? About 980. So half of 980 is about 490, right? Right here. And also the y. How big is that? 720 maybe? That's 360. So 490 by 360, which is around here. Now when we say show him at 0.5, we're going to show him 0.5 of the screen instead. Oh, sorry, I forgot something. We never set his anchor, his y anchor. It's just the x anchor. So therefore, he is half over here. If we were to set his y anchor 0.5 as well, or you can also just do anchor 0.5, 0.5, okay? This would set him, this would do nothing, because we are basically saying take him from the very center and put it in the center. And anytime you're doing something with position and anchoring, you can use something called align. And because we have x position of 0.5 and x anchor of 0.5, we can write x align 0.5. And the same thing applies to our y. So we can also write y align 0.5. And you guessed it, we could have also written align 0.5, 0.5. And that does nothing because we're setting his middle, the middle of Bob, to the middle of the screen. But there are more properties you can pick. Again, the documentation is extremely wonderful. It didn't specify this is the x value and this is the y value. But again, this is just math. When you talk positions in math, this is x, this is y, right? Same thing applies here. To clarify, you can also use these as pixels instead. So if I were to write 400. Let's do the, oops, I'm going to delete the transform. So there he is at 400 pixels. His top left, don't forget. So if I were to write 300, Bob's top left is now off the screen somewhere. We can't see it, but the game sees it. And that's all that matters. We can even rotate. A float, again, if you remember, is a decimal number. And anytime these things are floats, the number is probably capped at 1. So between 0 and 1. Zoom is not capped between 0 and 1, however. We can do something like zoom 1.0. That's the default. This is already the default. So nothing happens. Now if I write 1.5, we are zoomed in now. Now we're zoomed in right in the center. Right? So 2, you can write 2 or 2.0, doesn't matter. It converts numbers into floats for you. Other things are alpha, for example. Alpha 0.5 maybe. There's a lot more you can do with these things. You can even blur, for example. Although we've reached the bottom of the list because the rest are deprecated, and it may not seem like much, but this is enough for most visual novels. And this is a built-in sort of property that's applied to your image. And most of the time, if you are trying to reuse the same properties, instead of this, and then let's say you have 100 images. Instead of all these being copied, pasted over and over again, you should instead use transform and give it a name. So this would zoom us and make us invisible. So I don't know, chameleon or something. And we can instead take these, just paste it here. And now image Bob is defined as an image. If you don't want to reuse, for example, maybe I don't want to reuse zoom over and over, and I just want chameleon to be alpha 0.5. You can go ahead and make image Bob zoomed, right? So zoom, and then instead of showing Bob, you can show Bob zoomed, and make him say, "Whoa, too close." Right? So, whoops. Oh, sorry. It's because we didn't specify what image zoomed Bob is, or Bob zoomed is. Alright, so start. Whoa, too close. Okay, I messed up something. This is a great opportunity to talk about tags. In Ren'Py, images are grouped in tags. And a tag is whenever you do. So when we made these images, the reason we used spaces is for the tagging system. So try Bob space, and you can keep the Bob zoomed, or you can just delete it. Doesn't matter. If you keep it, then you want to write Bob. You want to write that. You want to keep that too. Okay. That's how the tagging system works, and it takes the first word after you say show. So show Bob. You see how my text editor also shows or highlights this part right here? And that's good for us because they belong to the same tag. So we can show image Bob and then image Bob zoomed, right? So I'm going to go ahead and save that. So previously, if you remember, this one appeared on top of this. But because we use Ren'Py's image tagging, which essentially allows us to do show Bob zoomed and then show Bob without having to do, for example, if we didn't have that tag, without having to do show Bob zoom, and okay, I'm gonna have to restart. Show Bob zoomed, and because this little guy appears on top of the bigger guy, hide Bob zoomed. And let me restart that. Now it works the same way as if we use the tagging system, right? We don't have to hide anything. It just works. So I'm going to go ahead and reuse that tag and delete that and add that back in. Oh, too close. Oh, one more thing if you noticed, when we first start our game, there's nothing top left here, but when we click next, there is now the Eileen icon, or the Ren'Py icon, I don't know what that icon is, with strength, intellect, and charm. And that's because our show screen stats is much after these guys. So again, Ren'Py reads top to bottom. I'm going to go ahead and hide this for now, just comment it out. And you can mix and match. Remember when I talked about auto, the auto definition, the auto images being, or the images being auto defined? So we can just write show Bob happy. And again, just one more time, images are only automatically defined if they are in the images folder. And you can put them in folders from there. You can have like backgrounds, I misspelled, and also people, for example. Just make sure they are in the images folder. So show Bob happy. Oops. So start. Whoa, too close. And then we zoom out. Welcome to the world. And now Bob is happy, right? Let's add at chameleon. So, whoa, too close. So we zoom out. Welcome to the world. He's happy. And that's a bit jarring. Like he just goes invisible. Like what? You know? So we're gonna apply some kind of time system to this. So we're gonna go linear 0.5, or you can use ease 0.5. So the difference between linear and ease is ease starts slow, speeds up, then slows down. Think of a bell curve. And if you don't know what a bell curve is, it looks something like that. So it kind of goes exponentially and then decreases exponentially too. As compared to a linear, it stays consistent. So if we were to write linear 0.5, I don't know how often Ren'Py refreshes, but every refresh, it would change the alpha from 1.0 to, let's say it refreshes once every 1/10 of a second. It would go alpha, we use 0.5, right? So 0.5. Every 1/10 of a second, it will go to 0.5, 0.4, and then 0.3, and then alpha 0.2 with linear. Just play around with it. And let's start. Whoa, too close. So welcome to the world. And I want Bob, instead of to go half transparent, I want him to go full transparent. Because I want to emphasize on the background, right? So I'm going to save that. So start. Whoa, too close. Welcome to the world. What's going on? Oh, whoops, wrong way. 0.0. Okay, so welcome to the world, and Bob disappears because he's excited to show you this this world, this beautiful world, right? And we can go ahead and do something like no wait, and then window hide, and then we'll pause so it doesn't automatically go to jump label. So when the sentence finishes, the window will hide. If that's a bit too fast for you, I think we can do something like wait equals. So we're going to wait 1 second once our sentence ends before we go ahead and go no wait. And there we go. So once again, the reason why you may want to define an image is if you want to do extra stuff to it. It gives you more control. Otherwise, you can just simply plop it into the images folder and you're done. Oh, you can also make transition, or you can also make animations of sorts. So let's try it out. I'm just going to replace Bob zoomed with Bob animated. And because I want to keep that tag, pause. Let's go with 0. Let's go with 0.1, and then images slash Bob. Let's say happy, and then pause 0.1, and then images slash Bob angry. Well, don't forget the extension. And then I'm gonna repeat. But of course, I don't want to just go to angry and then switch to regular right away. So I'm gonna pause 0.5 one more time before that repeat. So now we can do something like, so it will look like this. And that's how you would do a quick kind of animation. And you can apply the chameleon effect to this. And you can also repeat transforms too. Let's start with alpha 1.0, and from there, linear, within half of a second, we're going to take it to, or because it's linear, we can just go within 1 second. I want this fully invisible. And then the other way, within 1 second, bring it back to full visibility. And then we can repeat as well. So at chameleon is already applied. Let's apply it to Bob animated as well. So not only is Bob going to change face, he's also going to blink in and out of existence. Now next, I want to talk about something called transitions. These are transforms, and this is what ATL. ATL. It's just we're applying transformation to the image. That's all it is. So as you can see, we can apply ATL to images, and also we can just define a transformation and then apply it to the image with at, right? Okay, so this, you are learning about ATL. This is sort of advanced, so good for you. Keep it up. Now I'm going to show you guys something called a transition. We can do something with fade, for example. When I load the game in, it's going to fade in, as you can see. Let me show on a different scene, like here instead, with fade. And we're going to start the game. He's still chameleoning. Why? Oh, that's because we didn't set at reset. Okay, we want him to reset his chameleon after, whoa, too close. So there, he goes back to his neutral, because that's his neutral image, and he's reset. So it unapplies everything. So from here, at reset, we're going to click. See how my whole screen goes black? Transitions are done with, and whatever the transition you want to use. And transitions are applied to, transition right here, applied to the whole entire screen, because it transitions from one background to another. So it's more used for whenever you want to give the effect to the screen, like pixelate. This one you will be able to see much better, I think. Well, you see how the whole entire screen pixelated out rather than just Bob, even though I applied it to Bob? So just keep that in mind. I believe there are some transitions that applies to character or to sprites as well, or to sprites rather than entire screens. And I don't mean the Ren'Py kind of screen. I meant your game screen, okay? And transitions have their own little things as well. Okay? And again, to clarify one more time, transitions your entire screen. Now that we've covered transform and transition, I'm going to go ahead and talk about Zorder. Oh, we've also talked about show and hide and why you might want to use image tagging. I should have added that as well, but I covered it anyways. Now we're going to use Zorder. Let's say we have a lot of stuff going on over here, and now we want to reset everything. We can just write scene BG beach again, and this will clear, so we don't have to write hide Bob or whatever. Reset it the game screen, or cleared the game screen. How about that? So like we cleared trash off the table, and there you go. Everybody disappeared. If you have more than 2 characters, maybe instead of hide Bob and then hide, I don't know, Alex or Alice, I guess. Hide Alice. Instead of writing all this, you can just restate the scene. Whoops, I deleted that. You can just restate the scene again, and it will hide everybody. Of course, if you do hide with fade or with some sort of transition, then people would know that you resetted the screen. Up to you. It's your choice. Okay. Zorder. Right. I was going to talk about Zorder. Let's show BG Beach. Or here, let me make a new character using the same size as Bob. Or we're not even going to make a character. I'm just going to export this white image. Desktop. And we're going to go white image. And we're just going to export that. And then I'm going to drag and drop white image. So I'm going to go ahead and show white image at right. I don't know where. Okay, well, it's taking a lot more space than I thought it would have, but do you see how we showed Bob first? So Bob is on a lower layer. Take a look at this. When I make a new layer, it's there, and I'm going to draw this red on top, or this red here, okay? Here, we are showing, let's say this is Bob. Here, let me do this instead. Over here, we are showing Bob. Now if I make a new layer, if I show someone else on top, like the white image, white, I misspelled white, but whatever. Do you see how it's covering Bob now? It's acting the exact same way here. Whatever you show first will by default be underneath what you show next, okay? So let's say we want this instead. We can go ahead and write. It doesn't matter where you add it. You can write Zorder. And by default, the Zorder of every character is 0. So if I were to do that, that would do nothing because it's already Zorder 0. Instead, I want Bob to be in front because Bob is also Zorder 0. We're going to go ahead and write Zorder -1. And we're going to refresh this. Whoops, start, not load. Welcome. Welcome to the world. Whoops. Okay, I forgot something. Scenes also take on Zorders. So we're going to write Zorder, let's say 0. Oh, no, that's already default. We want to show Bob at Zorder 1 instead, for example. So, in this case, then, we might not need Zorder here at all, because Bob is always in front now. So there you go. Bob is in front of the white screen. So there we go. If I hid Bob in between here, let's say hide Bob. We start that, and Bob is showing. The Zorder effect disappears. Unfortunately, you can't apply Zorder to your transform or your images. You're going to have to manually write this out. But that's okay. There are very few instances where I can think that I would need Zorder that many times. I want to touch on extensions real quick. Extensions for backgrounds. If you take a look here, I'm using .jpg compared to .png for Bob. And that is because PNGs allows for transparencies, while JPGs, on the other hand, is more for images that you don't need transparency. So a lot of your backgrounds will be, to save space, will be JPGs. So if you go ahead and take a look at your image size, I'm at 75 kilobyte. and take a look at your character PNG. Your character is, first of all, much smaller than your background, right? Much smaller than your background, and most of it is transparent compared to your background, which has images and colors throughout the entire screen. But it's still smaller than the PNG. And another thing is, because we're not using transparency, we don't have to worry about this being a PNG. There is another type of extension called WebP, and that compresses your PNG to a nearly lossless quality. If you're interested, look more up on this. With that, I think that covers everything you need to know about images, transition, and transform. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I will get to you when I get to you.